Welcome back to another video, guys. I had switched locations, so it's a little noisier and a little busier than usual. But in today's episode, I wanted to touch on if it's worth buying a Project E39 M5 in today's date, which is 2024, soon to be 2025. As these cars get older, they become more rare and they become also quite more expensive for the good examples, and the not so okay examples just get worse and worse and worse and end up being completely neglected to the point where they're either parted out or they're sold for next to nothing because they're scrap. Much like my other informational videos, I want to give you my opinion whether I think it is worth it or not, and I also want to hear yours. So like we already mentioned, these cars are becoming extremely hard to find. The rougher examples are going up in price and the more pristine examples are going up as well. So these cars are getting more hard to find. You don't see so many of them for sale. They're usually farther away, they're usually in terrible condition, or they're usually completely neglected, as in they need tons of maintenance and everything that needs to be addressed hasn't been. And that also brings you to the point where a lot of the cars that are maintained are those high examples. But even the high mileage cars that are maintained are starting to pull a much bigger premium than they used to. Used to see these cars for under $5,000 and then $5,000 to $10,000 for the examples that were in pretty decent condition with average miles, not really needing much, just basically a daily driver. And the pristine examples would be the ones that would fetch like $20,000 on a rare day. I first bought mine for $5,000 in Phoenix, and it was a titanium silver with Le Mans blue interior, and it made the entire drive back, and I daily drove that car for almost 2 years, and it was everything to me. I regret selling that car, but we're on to bigger and better things. I've owned 5 of these cars now in the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. So of course, the first thing, and it's first things first, is all gonna be about price. It depends on what you buy the car for and what the car needs. That's ultimately gonna be the 100% deciding factor whether you do it or not. It's all about money at the end of the day. If you can find one of these cars cheap enough, and that's if, it's gonna need a majority of the work that's very expensive, it's gonna need a lot of its service records, and it's gonna need all the big money and the big budget jobs. So that's one thing to look out for, and it's always, you always hear people say this, the cheaper you get the car, the more you're gonna put into it. If you buy a $10,000 car, expect to put $10,000 into it. Whereas you could go buy a $20,000 M5 with all those services done, and you could just drive it as is. But the thing that people always say doesn't really add up in the real world, because not everyone has $20,000 just to go spend on one of these cars. The majority of people don't have $10,000 to go spend on one of these cars. And again, most people aren't gonna spend $10,000 for a car that's just gonna sit there and need a bunch of maintenance and work and leak in their garage or in their driveway or backyard. So we're talking about realistic events. We're not all collectors with a bunch of money. We're not all corporate CEOs with hundreds of thousands of dollars to spare, or even tens of thousands of dollars to spare. So my vision of this car is, if you can find one of these cars between 10 and 15,000 that's in decent average condition, doesn't need a ton of work, but it also isn't perfect. You're gonna find a lot of these examples to need paint work, like this car right here, and it's gonna need is basic maintenance. So these cars, luckily, are extremely reliable, and honestly, if you buy one of these cars at 200,000, 220, 230, they really don't need that much. They're gonna need the typical suspension, they're gonna need brakes, they're gonna need a tune-up, you're gonna have to put a couple things into the car leaking and some other things like that. But that's really about it. Timing chains are kind of unheard of on these cars. People do it as preventative, and that's about it. You don't really need them on these cars because the engine runs cooler, and they're also a different material versus the 540s that everybody basically blows up because of timing chain guides. So it's not something you really have to worry about. And then again, rod bearings are something that people do preventative. It's not really heard of where people have an issue. I'm not gonna say it's not happened, and I'm not gonna say it's not a thing, but basically, if you take care of your car and you do some oil changes, and if you don't know the condition of the car, send it off for an oil analysis. It's like 30, 40 bucks probably, and you'll get your answer right away. You'll know whether you need to do it or you don't. So it's a good way to tell where your car is. Something that you don't really need to stress about is timing chain and rod bearings. If you can do it yourself and you have the DIY necessary and the tools and the knowledge, 100% go for it, save yourself. If you can't do the DIY yourself, and obviously if you don't have $5,000 to send it off for repair or preventative maintenance if it's necessary, just make sure you do your regular oil changes, send it off for an oil analysis, and as long as the timing chain guides aren't making a ton of noise, which really they shouldn't be, most of these cars don't make much noise at all, make sure you just do your timing chain tensioner, and that will basically save you from any mishaps down the road, keeping it tensioned and keeping it with fresh oil in there. You shouldn't really have any issues. Only thing that you're really gonna run into on these cars is Vanos issues. That is 100% common, and that is 100% an issue on these cars. Mostly, a lot of the cars with 200 something thousand miles, the Vanos are extremely noisy, and a lot of things can go wrong Vanos related that people don't realize. It'll throw timing codes, it'll throw misfire codes, it'll throw a bunch of random codes that don't directly say Vanos, but will ultimately point to it in the early stages of repair. I drove my first M5, like I mentioned, for 3 years basically, and that whole time I sent that car to shops. I tried to send it to independent people. I looked at it myself. I had friends look at it. Nobody could tell me what was wrong with it because it had a slight misfire and had a couple weird cutout issues. Whole time, I finally did some research and I finally found something randomly. I stumbled upon this page and I stumbled upon the symptoms, and my signs exactly matched up to the Vanos seals. The Vanos seals were leaking, causing a basic vacuum leak, and was causing the car to misfire and have problems, but the car still ran perfectly and pulled full power. It's something much harder to diagnose, and if you're not 100% aware of these cars or basically around these cars 24/7, rebuilding them, doing engine work or doing maintenance, most of your average shops, most of your higher performance shops, most of your BMW direct shops aren't gonna be able to sit there and tell you that your Vanos seals are leaking. They don't know that, they don't have the information of that, or they straight up don't know how to test it. So that's another thing. If you're gonna send this car off to somebody, send it to somebody that is well-rounded with E39 M5s directly. Don't send it to BMW, don't send it to your local BMW repair. Most of them aren't gonna know what to do with this car. They're gonna be able to do all the basic stuff, but they're not gonna be able to do timing chains. Most of them are not gonna be able to do Vanos. Most of them will probably be able to do rod bearings, but they're not gonna be confident or they're not gonna be comfortable. So maybe if you go to a shop and you can ask directly, hey, does anybody have E39 M5 experience? Does any of your techs work on these independently? Do they have experience with their own? Blah, blah, blah. You could do some research, but I wouldn't be comfortable sending this car to anybody that wasn't E39 M5 directly related with knowledge. Other than the basic huge maintenance items and the big three basically is what this car would need. This car really just needs a good cooling system to keep up with that, and then keep this car away from sitting. I know it's kind of hard to drive these cars, especially if it's not your daily and depending on what state and your weather, but these cars develop lifter tick within like a week or two. It'll go away after like 10 minutes of driving, and these cars will get massive carbon buildup if you only put around town, go up and down the street. These cars basically need to be redlined, hard driven, and given the European tune-up. These cars need to be driven, and they basically need to be beat in order to keep in as best of condition as you're gonna get. When I beat the crap out of my car and drove it every single day, I had basically no issues with these cars. The cars that I've let sit in my garage for months and months and months, those are the ones that became more prominent to issues and neglect. So drive your car. If you can't, make sure you bring it out every weekend. Make sure you bring it out at least once or twice a month. Take it out for an hour to drive, take it to run some errands, take it out for the weekend with the kids or the wife. Besides all the work that nobody is really fond of, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, there's a lot of cosmetic things to make these cars look beautiful. I personally fully interior swapped my car. It had heritage interior that was absolutely disgusting, and I was able to get another car with full Silverstone, full leather interior, and I stripped this car 100%. And did a full leather dash in perfect condition, full leather under dash, full leather center console, Silverstone seats in beautiful condition, and full leather Silverstone door panels in also beautiful condition. These cars look amazing when they're kept up. Obviously my paint looks absolutely terrible, except for this section, looks beautiful. There's a lot of cosmetics that actually make these cars look a lot better. If we come over to the engine bay, I want you guys to forgive me. I was in the middle of doing some work on this car and I forgot to put back the cabin air filter box for the passenger side. So forgive me and ignore that. But these are beautiful cars. The engine is absolutely phenomenal. These cars make good power for what they are. They actually are a blast to drive. They handle well, they feel well, they pull good. They sound absolutely amazing. Throw some carbon intakes on there, you get some induction noise, and of course these cars need an exhaust. Mine unfortunately right now is stock, but that's another subject that we're going into next. These cars are great to mod, whether it is cosmetic, whether it is mechanical. These cars, a lot of people like to keep stock, but they don't get the full potential of these cars. You can do a lot of little things that make these cars feel amazing. You can do some suspension upgrades or some bushings or some sway bars, put it on some coilovers and a strut bar, and this car will handle absolutely amazing. You can put it on some intakes, get some induction noise, put an exhaust on this car, and it will be one of the most exotic sounding V8s you'll ever drive. And for the price point, this will be one of the best sounding V8s you'll ever have. It's unlike any other sound. They sound absolutely amazing, and a lot of people have no idea what these cars are, and they hear it and it sounds crazy. So don't be afraid to mod these cars or keep it basically stock. These cars are a blast to modify and a blast to work on. So if you're not very up to date on DIYs or doing your work yourself, absolutely start working on these cars. You'll learn so much, and it's actually quite easy to learn and work on this car. I know this is just a lot of random bits and pieces and little bullet points, but I believe this car is absolutely fantastic, especially in the fall and the winter season, depending on your state. Once it's like 70 degrees, 60 degrees, and a little bit chillier at night, these cars perform amazingly. They don't have so much problems with heat soak, and they don't have so much just heating problems in general, and they absolutely shine in a little bit of colder weather. So definitely make sure you're enjoying your car in the fall months and the spring before it gets too hot in the summer and before it gets too cold in the winter. Now that the people that aren't so aware of these cars have a little bit more of general knowledge, I want you guys to base your opinion on this. I believe personally, again, if you can get one of these cars for $10,000 to $15,000 and it's not absolutely beat and it isn't neglected where it's gonna fall apart or have some huge, massive mechanical issues, I 100% encourage you to jump on it. Buying a car for that price range is pretty hard nowadays. Everything's going up in price, and these cars, fortunately for the people that own them and unfortunately for the people that don't yet, they are going to continue to go up in price. They're getting more rare. People are beating them and neglecting them. You're seeing more being parted out. You're seeing more absolutely destroyed. You're finding these sitting in someone's backyard for the past 10 years rotting away. So they're only going to go up in price. They're only going to become more valuable. And right now, parts and the cars alone are getting extremely hard to find, especially good parts cars with good interiors, good wheels, good suspension bits, good mechanicals. Everything's getting 10 times harder to find, and as the days go on, it just gets harder. So if you find one that you can jump on, I 100% agree. Again, stay within that 10 to 15,000 if you want a project car, and bump it up to 20 if you want a well-sorted car that you can just hop in and enjoy. Even then, you're probably still gonna need to do some of the work, but these cars, you can still find a good deal, and I agree that these cars are worth it on the cheaper side, depending on your budget. As long as you're not too picky with a color combo or all the work already being done, you can definitely find an amazing deal. Colorways will actually rise and raise the price. If you find a rare color with a good interior, it definitely is going to be more than a Silverstone car with heritage interior, which is also probably the most common spec out there. So red, white, and blue are definitely the more rare colors, and then you throw in individuals and all the greens and the random blues, all those other colors, you're just going to find a huge price tag on. So if you don't really care, buy a black one, buy a silver one, buy whatever color you can find locally, or find one in a good deal and definitely jump on it. It's probably one of the most fun M cars to ever own, and people say that this is the best M car ever made entirely, and I agree. There's a lot of things that you can't get in this car. I currently daily drive an F80 M3 in manual, and it is absolutely nothing of an experience of an older M car. The manual, you just won't get the same feel as the older car. You won't get the same basically all-around experience as these cars. Both cars are absolutely amazing individually, and they're very hard to compare. But this is where people truly get inspiration and enjoyment and entertainment. This is all where it comes from, is these older M cars. And I definitely think that everyone that is into BMWs should definitely have an E39 M5 in your collection. Even if you're not into BMWs, these cars are just absolutely amazing, and they were way ahead of their time. It was the fastest sedan in 2000. It's a 400 horsepower V8 with individual throttle bodies, dual overhead cams, dual vanos. These cars are just absolutely amazing, and they perform amazingly. 400 horsepower, like 395 torque, and they sound incredible with ITBs in the exhaust system of that German V8. So with all that being said, guys, I highly advise you to get a Project E39 M5 if you enjoy working on things, or just get an E39 M5 in general for whatever your price range may vary and whatever you can absolutely comfortably buy. I 100% think you should get one and enjoy it, even if it's just temporarily. I think that these are forever cars, and cars that you should forever keep in the collection. This is something that you should hand down to the kids or a family member, or just keep around for yourself. I want everyone that's here to experience these cars with me. I know I build these sort of on the channel with you guys, and you guys see all the work that I do. I also want you guys just to be able to enjoy this, sit back, have a little talk sesh, a little chat, get some random information, let me know some things, let you guys know my thoughts. We're behind the wheel of the E39 M5. I have basically no gas in this car after sitting for a few weeks and only driving it legit for my first time once. One thing I did want to mention is that I appreciate everyone who watches these informational videos and is able to be entertained or learn something from them. Being a smaller channel, it's very hard to justify buying a new car or spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on car parts just to make a video for you guys. I want to be in touch with you guys and communicate. Basically just be active on the channel and active with you guys. I would love to be able to do that more, but I feel like it's kind of hard to do content without ultimately spending money. If I don't buy car parts or buy a new car, if I'm not doing something without something new, unless I just throw some random informational videos out there, it's kind of hard to justify doing content without something interesting or really entertaining for you guys. I don't want to just tide you over with a bunch of BS and stuff that you've already heard 20 times or stuff you already know. So that's just my thought point. That's why I love doing these videos. Man, people don't know how to drive in here. I have probably the most fun when we actually do get new parts and get new cars. I love making content, and I love making the videos that are actually interesting and entertainment. It's actually been quite hard to actually film a lot of these, being that I have been basically by myself this entire time. All the old videos, we'd have Frederico and Eduardo with me, and we'd do basically shenanigans and have a lot more fun in the videos. But a lot of these other videos, I've had a new work schedule and they've been in new work schedules, but all of us have basically had different jobs during this time period. I have my new job now, and I work a schedule from, I get up at 3 a.m. in the morning and I don't get home until 6 o'clock at night. And my schedule is work 2 days, 2 days off, work 2 days, 2 days off, work 3 days, off 2 days. And then my days off rotate every week. So I haven't been able to be active in my own social life very much. It's been kind of hard adjusting. I worked night shift for 5 years, and now I'm on this sort of day shift. Well, I work all day, but I'm also up at 3 a.m. getting ready for work, which puts me to sleep at like 7 p.m. It's legit like 7:30, 8:30 is when I go to bed. So it's just been kind of hard to film and get on everyone else's schedule. I've been tired trying to adjust, but enough. You guys don't need to hear all that rambling, but I'm just letting you guys know the standpoint. And I also wanted to give a big shout out to everyone that has been supporting me and sticking with the channel. And we've also been growing, which is absolutely great and something that I will forever be grateful and happy about. Hopefully in the near future, we will start modifying this car. Now that this car is basically 100% stock, we need to do suspension. We need to do a little bit updating on the brakes. This car will definitely need some more cosmetics, some wheels, some interior cosmetics, exterior cosmetics. It'll definitely need an exhaust, and of course, it will need its own paint work. So Let me know if you guys do like these informational videos, if you do like just listening, having a chat basically, and having a little get together as we call it, or as we're having. Let me know if you guys do enjoy these or if they are informational or entertainment. I would really appreciate that. Again, it's very hard to justify spending hundreds, thousands, if not 10,000, 15,000 on a new car just to get a new video out there or bring some content to you guys. So let me know. Free content is easy. I can do that whenever, and I can pump that out a lot more than basically a new car, or hey, I just spent $1,000 on random car parts, now let's put it in, which is of course fun, but it's kind of hard to do. I'm only 23. I don't make enough money to do that as much as I would like, and I got to do some more financial moves to get myself in a better position. And your boy also would like to buy a house sometime soon, so I got to save, and I need to get my money right and actually do hopefully some more business opportunities or just some more flips and make some more money. So with that being said, let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Talk to me, let me know your thoughts, let me know what you thought on the video, let me know your own input, and we'll get back to you ASAP. I appreciate it, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back ASAP. Later, guys.